Hello, all you cosmic travelers and wanderers. This is Darlene Vandergrift and K. Melissa Waterman, inviting you to join us today in our episode of Expansion from Within, Exploring Multidimensionality.
So hi, everyone. We're back to episode 54. We're going to continue our conversation on love, the universal frequency. Can we talk more about self-love today and about our overall well-being, how that impacts, how self-love impacts our well-being, how we get to self-love, more about that?
Yeah, I think you brought up the last time that loving all parts of yourself, right?
Right.
That's huge for any of us to not only allow that, but embrace those shadow parts of ourselves or the past. Like many of us at this age that we're not the same as we were 30 years ago. Our choices, our decisions, if you want to call them mistakes or you call them failures or whatever, some people call them that, but it feels like letting go of that so that you can love the fact that that was who you were then, doing the best that you knew how to do with whatever was running you at that time.
Right.
As we work through our wounds, as we work through navigating, life in a way of what it gives to us so that we become more diligent in understanding who we are and letting go of who we don't want to be anymore.
Right. There's something here about shame and how shame creates the same behavior that we don't like over and over again. And that the thing that interrupts shame is self-love. And so the more self-love you have, the quicker you can, if you're able to move out of shame. It's not like we don't all fall into it now and then, but we don't have to hang out there and live from it. I think that can be so toxic, right? And I certainly know that from my own personal experiences. So it's like the antidote. I think self-love is the antidote to shame. And it's not something you can just take like a drink, like for the poison of shame, and just drink it up and go, okay, that's over with. You have to work a new neural pathway. You have to keep on it and sort of catch when that inner critical voice is creating some shame. You didn't quite do it right. You're not really good enough. You better hurry up. I don't know what you've been doing, wasting all your time. Like that voice that's somehow kind of constant in many people's, it's constant in many people's heads, but I'm kind of blown away. Like I'm aware of some neuroscience that after working with Dr. Joe Dispenza, I would look at all these brainwaves, and one of the brainwaves that I would see at the very bottom of the paper, like 25 different waves going, different things happening in the brain when someone was meditating. The bottom one is called the default mode. The default mode, our default setting is an inner critical voice.
Mm-hmm.
The default mode and the inner critic are just two names for the same thing. And so when you learn to love yourself, it quells that default mode. The default mode, I'm a bit upset that they call it the default mode, that it's our actual default setting. Like we have one. How do we change the default setting? I can change the default setting on my phone. So I'm in the process of continually working on self-love to change the default setting of my brain, so that shame doesn't create that same behavior that I'm really not liking myself for, whatever it might be.
And what I would add to that as you're talking is there's something about, because I know you're involved in like the psychodrama.
I am. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It feels like when you can talk about your shame, or you could even be the critic on the outside, like let it out, to either tell somebody like, this is what's going on with me. It feels like it waters it down or it neutralizes it, or even, in your privacy of starting to talk about what that critic is saying to
Mhm.
you in your head. In some way, it's like a tea kettle. It releases the steam of it. It's not secret anymore. We talked about secrets before. It's not, you're not holding it so tight to you that you can't even you don't even want to hear it from your voice, right?
Well, and I think what you're talking about is getting distance, right? Being able to look at
Yes.
it from a little bit of a different viewpoint instead of it thinking it's you,
Yes.
right? Because all the inner critic says is I statements. I suck. I'm not good enough. I'm bad. I didn't do it right. I should have known. I shouldn't have said that thing. And so to get it out a bit and be able to hear it and go, oh, that's an inner critical voice. Oh, that's my damn default mode, for
Mhm.
Pete's sake. How do I shift my default mode? Wait, what can I say to this part of me? How, I think just differentiating it and getting it a little bit of distance so you know it's not just you
Right.
is that steam let off. It's that it releases some of the pressure right off the bat.
Yeah, and right off the bat is an interesting thing. I'm big on talking to myself, whether anybody's here or not.
Uh-huh.
It's like because I'll just say something. So if I do something that feels like it's stupid, I'll go, that was really stupid. I don't say, Darlene, you're really stupid. That
Right.
that doesn't feel like it fits. Like I don't even know if I've ever said that, by the way. Like I
That's
don't
great.
address me as me. I address it as you. So there's always a distance for me in
Great.
whatever is being judged.
In psychology, we would say you have a healthy adult ego state. That's sign that you were not horrifically wounded as a child, that you were maybe reasonably wounded as a child, like most people, but that it wasn't horrendous. Because once I remember starting to put a key in the car and I missed the hole of the key, before you had a clicker on your car. This was a while back.
Mhm.
And I did not scratch the car. I did not gouge it. Nothing bad happened.
Mhm.
But I heard myself say to myself some very nasty words that said that I was a effing asshole. I am over that. And I remember stepping
Wow.
back from the car and going, if that's what you think I'm an asshole about, boy, let me tell you, I got other things that
Oh.
really might fill the bill, but this one isn't it. Like, you're really over the top here, dude. Dude, my inner critic and I have a very interesting relationship. But I also talk to myself, and I have to set boundaries with my inner critic because it is particularly harsh and goes right for the juggler. And it is my voice saying you,
Mhm.
or I. It's
Mhm.
not about, oh, that was a dumb thing to do, or oh, be more careful, or oh, don't scratch the car. It went straight to my character. And I think when it does that, that is what leads to shame. And
Oh,
that shame is the thing that can affect your overall well-being. So again, just to restate it, the antidote in my little world is the antidote to shame is self-love, is self-acceptance, is self-accompaniment. Maybe you don't have to be all adoring and mushy, but you can go, oh, you're doing the best you can. It's all right. Like, life's all right. We're okay. Like, just,
yeah, take yourself off the hook, right?
yeah, yeah. Yep. How do you balance loving someone else while maintaining your own identity and needs?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's a
Well,
question for you.
if we're needy at all, you tend to kind of, or codependent, you tend to kind of slide right into whatever they want. Um, that's a really hard pattern to break for most people because they may not even see it.
That's right. They think they're being loving.
Yeah, yeah.
Sometimes they are. Sometimes
Sometimes
it
they
is
are.
really loving.
Mhm.
Yeah,
But then there's strings and agendas and all of that that gets attached in that kind of mishmash of love.
right. I think it's so interesting to see people that are walking around in eggshells with each other. They're worried. They
Yeah.
don't want to behave in a way that's going to make the other person mad. So they're up on their tippy toes all the time, kind of pussyfooting around. And it's like, well, how are your own needs getting met? If you're watching for the other person's disapproval so hard, how can you be yourself? Like when you need to get your heels on the ground and breathe and get grounded. But people are really nervous that they're not going to get loved if they're not careful, if they're not watching for whatever is going to happen next. Like it feels like danger is everywhere.
I think one way, because if you get caught in the loop, you may not see it, right? You may not feel it. But I was talking to somebody this week and their wife was away, right? For a couple days at a business trip. And it was brought up like, I don't know why, but I feel more relaxed, right?
Right.
So when there is that separation, if you're really tuned into your energy, really tuned into your body, how do you feel when they're not there?
Right.
Right? Like, is there something that's happening when they are there that you're either taking on, or you're trying to prove something, or trying to be a good boy, or trying to be a good girl, whatever that
Right.
is. So those places, even in a love relationship of whatever depth of love that is, those places of time alone, extended sometime places of time alone, not just an hour here or there, because you may not feel it, identify it. But I think they're important in relationships in general.
Well, I think they're important for the health of the relationship, but they're
Yes.
also telltale. Like if you're really relieved when the person leaves, and I mean, then you have some stuff to work on because maybe you need to practice being that relaxed state, like build the neural pathway for the relaxed state when they're in the room. Maybe they're not a horrible person who's,
Right.
got a whip in their hand. Maybe you've just become kind of overly, neurotic about, holding on to yourself, keeping yourself small. I can completely relate to that. I've lived with other people in the last 5 years, and I worked on taking up space. Was it okay for me to be in the room? Could I just sit in the chair and imagine taking up space? Like it's okay for me to be here because maybe they didn't want me here. Maybe, these were like not people I ended up living with. Not that I said, oh, we're so great, we'll be great living together. And so it was you know, like maybe I was bothering them, or maybe I was okay, well, that'll be on them to say if I'm bothering them, and I'm going to just be in my own space here in my own little earth body and be here and see what that feels like. And it took, like, my default mode, not just the one that was negative self-talk, was to be like, oh, watch out for danger.
Yeah.
It took
Yeah.
a bit. All right, well, if there's danger, I'll know it and then I'll deal with it. I don't have
Right.
to
As
look
opposed
for
to
it.
making it up. Right.
Right, right. Yeah, so I think that, the question is, how do you balance loving someone else while maintaining your own identity and needs? You have to know what your own identity and needs are all the time. You have to check on that and see what they are, and are you meeting them? Not just is there some community happening, but if you
Hmm.
don't have that baseline of knowing, if I don't have my own baseline of knowing what my needs are, how will I ever keep them with another human? Either I'm going to be asking them to fulfill them, like it's like it's like the foundational piece.
Yeah.
Know yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's all about us, right? The whole world is really about us. It's a reflection of how we identify or how we respond.
Well, we could talk about narcissists a little bit and how to, if you are a narcissist, how do you pay attention to someone else? How do you use that muscle and start
Mhm.
to really look at other people and see what they need and see what the world is doing, because it's a new neural pathway for the narcissist, right? They're just all about us. And I know that's not what you meant. You were talking about our universal us, that we are all one, but it just brought it to mind. So what are some of the most significant lessons you've learned about love? Whew, what a question.
Yeah, really. Um, for me, that it exists, because I think I grew up not even knowing what that word meant. God loves you is about the only word that I heard. But then you read in the Bible that I was grow up on, that he was really a vindictive God.
Yeah.
He was an angry God. So you better do everything that he says, because then you'll live, right? So, love felt like it was very much of not unconditional. And so the lessons are one that, yeah, that it exists and that I'm capable of having it and that I'm capable of expressing it. And then I'm capable of feeling it. The feeling for me is something that I continue to work on, to not become overwhelmed by feeling it and to not feel like the next shoe's going to drop if I do feel it. Somebody's going to die if I become too connected, if I become too loving towards you. You're going to die. And that's that, you know, that's truth, right? Somewhere along the line, you're going to die. So it's something's going to be taken away if I feel love. Not because I'm loving, but because I'm feeling something that is not just surface.
Right. Right. I think for me, the significant, I think for me, the most significant lessons have been unlearning the Catholicism love, unlearning and learning the broader perspective of what I think that word means and what I think that looks like and what I experience. And really, I think the biggest lessons have been in similar to you, like, what does it feel like? What does actual love feel like? What isn't this infatuation thing I thought was love? And then because of my past, I have an attachment style that allows me to really turn off pretty easy. If I think somebody doesn't like me, I'm out. Like, okay, see you, bye. You don't like me. So did I love you? If I can just leave you like that? Did I ever really like, was it just infatuation? Like, so I still ponder all of that. But I have a knowing now, and I have a felt sense in my body about this wah, wah, wah frequency I spoke of in the last session. That is this greater love that holds me. Like I trust it. I trust it that I'm in it. And it's not so personal. It's not like Jesus loves me. You know, I used to really believe Jesus loved me. I'm not sure he doesn't. I'm not meaning to say anything about Jesus per se. It's just that was the personal God I was raised in, the personal Jesus that loved me and knew all that number of hairs on my head. Like this greater wah, wah, wah love isn't about personal. And so I'm safe in it. It's not vulnerable. I can just ride it like a wave. I float on it and it's good. It's good. And I can dip in and all kinds of cool things happen when I dip in. I see things. Sometimes I hear things. Sometimes I smell things.
Well, good, I hope.
So far, yeah. So yeah, I think that's one of the lessons I've learned. About love not necessarily being personal.
Right. It's bigger. I mean, if we are love as we're seen by the evolves, and I think by the dimensionals themselves, right? Is that in a lot of ways that we hold that frequency, we're capable of it. It's do we ever really utilize it? Do we ever really dive into it? You know, not just allow it. Do we ever become it at that level?
Right. The movie The Fifth Element is coming to my mind, right? The Fifth Element with love. And you know, all our war and all our crime and hatred just about broke her. But other humans helped her out to get her back in some kind of shape. But it's a good movie because it personifies love in a way it shows the fragility and the depth, you know. It's pretty cool. If anyone hasn't seen it, it's worth seeing. It's a little on the action side, but so how do you nurture and sustain long-term love and connection?
You work at it.
I was going to say with love, with lots of love.
Yeah. You work at it, you know, forgiveness, acceptance, you know, not looking at anything where you judge it. It's, you know, you try to stay that neutral place while you're addressing what may not work. It's not about letting it go. necessarily, or just overriding it like I'm a spiritual person and I don't need to go down that path. I can just rise above it. That I don't think works either. You really have to dive into addressing it, looking at
Right.
where the issue, the conflict, the non-love resides. Like this, it comes up for me recently, with losing two really good friends within 10 days of each other and really feeling the need for a cat,
Right.
and I had a cat for 15 years and we had to put her down last April, and it felt like it was time. But it was because I wanted to love something, and now it's emotional, right? I wanted to love something
Yeah.
that was mine,
Yeah.
and knowing that I might have her for 10 years, I might have her for 15 years. So I got a cat, I got a kitten. And boy, she's a run for her money because I haven't had a kitten. We've always had outside cats. But she climbs up on my chest and she purrs. And when she's had enough, she's down, and it fills me.
Yeah. That's great. You're her person.
I am her mommy and her person and all of that. And it feels good. It's like having another kid in some way. But I think
Yeah.
I missed my time with my kids when they were growing
Right.
up because I was working like all the time, and they were just they were just out there in the world. Like, God,
Yeah.
you couldn't do that now. I couldn't leave them run around the neighborhood like they did 40 years
Yep.
ago.
Mine too.
Couldn't
Yeah.
let them do that now. So, yeah, so that was very fulfilling. Finding my heart-based, what I needed now is not with a person. It's with this little being that's a fuzzball.
Well, that can unconditionally love you. That you're just her person. And so she just loves you. It's less complicated than
Much
any of
less
the other time.
complicated. And there's a
Yeah.
communication. It feels like whether it's a cat or a dog or a pig or whatever it is, I think we can develop a communication with those four-leggeds. Even a bird, I think you can develop a connection
I
with.
had I had a snake that I had a great connection with. It was a
Wow.
very, very large boa constrictor who would boop my nose, and he was wonderful. I thought it was a boy. I have no idea if that boa constrictor was a boy or not. It might have been a boy. Someone in the house probably made me think that. But yeah, there was a real relationship with this very large boa constrictor for a while he was around. Yeah.
And it's safe,
So
right?
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
for people that, and I'm sure when you're working with people that really don't feel safe with adults or people, they find a pet. They're pet people, because
well,
they
and
have
they
to
say,
give that love somewhere.
right. And they say pets help people live longer. Like, having something that loves you around is not a bad thing
Right.
under any circumstances. Yeah, it's good. Well, that's all the questions I have for today.
Well, we
So
breezed through that, Melissa.
we're good at this. We are. We're really good at this. Is it time for the good old announcements?
Sure, go ahead.
So this episode is connected to the teachings presented in the June 2024 live Cosmic Travelers event. The materials given during that meditation, during that event, will assist you in exploring this topic further. You can order a recording at soulunion.com. You can contact Darlene for whatever reason you want, including leaving your questions to soulunion.com. You can contact me at livingwellbeing.net. The Cosmic Travelers have this live event. It's the third Sunday of each month. Everyone participates in a guided interactive meditation directly with the evolves. Again, contact Darlene through soulunion.com for payment information and to, get the link to attend. The Cosmic Travelers have a Facebook page. Look for it under groups. We also have YouTube channels. They're listed in the blurb below. And that's all I got for today.
Well, you are wonderful. Thank you. I love you, Melissa.
I love you too, Darlene.
Remember, guys, you know more than you know.